We know now, of course, the ANC shedding a lot of votes, mostly in Gauteng municipalities, receiving just over 36% of votes in total, from just over 45% in the elections in 2016. Mbhazima Shilowa, former Gauteng Premier, of course, joining us via Zoom this morning to discuss what really could be, Mr. Shilowa, a way of looking at the party's declining support in the province. I want to talk about that and also an article that you've written. Tell me about why you think the ANC is now a rural party. Good morning. Thank you for your time.
Yes, good morning. Let me start by saying that, of course, the ANC remains the most dominant political party in the country, with a footprint everywhere and involved in majority councils for governance than any other. However, it's also important to note that whereas in previous years it gained majorities in all the metros, as well as in local towns, rural towns and mining, now it is only gaining in the main in rural areas, in towns linked to rural areas, and losing ground in major metros. I think in all the 8 metros, it only managed to be there in 2 of those. So what I'm really saying is that unless it arrests that decline, it is going to become more and more dominant in rural areas and lose out in urban centers, in areas in which there is more resources, there's more possibilities for development. So it needs to be able to balance that. So it's not so much that it should be for rural people against urban people and vice versa, but that if it does not do a lot more, it is going to decline even further.
Mr. Shilowa, help me understand why you think the ANC lost so much, just also from a national perspective. Where do you think this went so horribly wrong for the ANC? They can't be happy with this result, surely.
No, surely they are not happy. I think there are a number of reasons. Firstly, it will affect everybody. You know, South Africans are not used to short campaigning. They're used to campaigning year-long, 6 months and all of that. This was a very short campaign. Secondly, I think the ANC is hard hit in terms of resources. Everybody knows about that. Thirdly, there's the issue around COVID. But most importantly, I think majority of people also feel that politicians, especially the ANC and where they govern, it has been more about themselves and less about services. Many of them say we have been voting, still no water, no sanitation, no electricity, no roads in areas in which we come from. And so out of that, they would have decided we want to either stay away to punish the ANC, and a few would have decided we're going to give our vote to another party.
Let me ask you this as a final question. Just a few minutes ago, I had spoken to Becky and Charlie from COSATU. One of the questions I asked is their support for the ANC moving forward, and I can't remember verbatim the wording, but along the lines that the coalition agreement between COSATU and the ANC is not a permanent position for the tripartite alliance member COSATU. How worrying is it when you hear that statement from COSATU aimed at the ANC? Last question to you.
Yeah, it's really not worrying. In fact, I hold a view that now COSATU is not bringing anything to the party. I mean, the fact that the ANC loses in places like Gauteng, in Tshwane, in Nelson Mandela, in eThekwini, where there are big industries, where there are major organized workers, it just shows you that firstly, COSATU is out of touch with its own members and their needs, but secondly, that unlike before, it is not able to bring anything onto the table in terms of mobilized workers to go out and vote for the ANC.
Well, I appreciate your time in speaking to us this morning, Mr. Mbhazima Shilowa, former Gauteng Premier as well. Lots of thought for all of us to take in as far as the decline of the ANC. It seems some excuses still coming out. There wasn't enough time for campaigning, but as Mr. Shilowa says, the ANC had plenty of time over the last few years to campaign while they were actually also supposed to be doing their jobs.